really steamy.
Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We got more snow last night, but today is shaping up to be a pretty nice day. To bring in all that snow, we got a really windy cold front that came in last night, so I had to move a lot of my trees into the greenhouse. They were out on the benches and they were kind of flopping around in the wind, and I didn't want to kind of uproot them or have the pots tip off the table, so all my kind of tall skinny trees I brought here in the greenhouse. With the sun coming out now, I've got to get all the trees back out of the greenhouse before they overheat. Here is the latest update on the orchard truck. I've painted linseed oil in the bed to protect it from rusting. And then on top of that, I'm going to put a piece of plywood. So I'll show you that. Here's the sheet of plywood that goes in the back of the truck. So that's also being painted with double boiled linseed oil. Looks pretty good. And that'll protect the bed. It's a sort of a bed liner, I guess. I've also been working on the paint. I found sanding it with 1000 grit gets most of the oxide layer off. And then I'm hoping to be able to further buff it and maybe polish it. You can see the paint is down to the primer in spots. So I don't know, I'm going to try and make the paint look the best it can with keeping the original paint. So that's the goal anyway. Insurance would like me to get an appraisal on the truck to kind of accurately determine its value. And none of the appraisal places are open right now, so they wanted me to just take some photographs of the truck to keep on their records. So I'll do that now. I'm in the truck now, and I'm going to do a cold start. I think this is the coldest temperature I've started the truck up, since I got it back. So I'm going to give it, I think, 3 pumps of the gas pedal. 1, 2, 3. Make sure it's in neutral. And here we go. Oh, perfect. So the exhaust is fixed now. Sounds really good in here. All right, I'm going to head out to find some suitable location to take some pictures. So here I go. They don't have to be like show quality pictures, but I just want somewhere where there's kind of a an empty background, like an empty parking lot or near a field or somewhere like that. Hopefully I won't have to go too far. Off we go. Sounds really nice now with that exhaust all in place. Still got a good rumble to it, but it's not too loud that it would annoy the neighbors or anything. So this truck's quite easy to drive. It has power steering and power brakes. It doesn't have air conditioning, but you got these side vent windows you can open up in the summer, and it blows this massive breeze into the car. So yeah, I'm lucky it has power steering and power brakes. It makes it so nice to drive. If you don't have power steering in these vehicles, they can be pretty hard to turn the wheel at slow speeds. So I'm out in the kind of the factory area, and I'm just looking for empty places that I can shoot some pictures of the truck. I'll find somewhere. There's a good wall over here, a factory wall that's empty. I could shoot it against that. I might go back there, see how it looks. It should be all right. Hopefully it's out of the wind too. I think it is. That's good. That's a bonus. I won't be having this horrifically cold wind blowing on me. So I'm going to park her right up here. Like that. All right, let's begin this photography session. So here's the first location. Kind of got a big plain wall in the background. So yeah, I'll snap some pictures here. I think I'll just take them handheld. Should work out okay. I finished taking the photos in location number 1. Let's head to a different spot now. Got a little bit of sun out when I was taking photos. It's kind of nice to get the, the cloudy shots and the shots with a bit of sun. Here's the second location. It's not in the wilderness or anywhere, but if I compose my shots kind of correctly, I think it'll look like it's kind of, I don't know, out in the wilderness maybe. I'm actually in the park in the city here, but all right, I'll take my photos at this location. I've got all my photography done. It's time to head home and start today's work here in the Bonsai Zone. Today started out really cold in the morning, and then the sun came out and it started warming up. And then I did the photos of the truck, and then it just started getting colder and colder, and it started snowing in the afternoon. So I think today we'll work inside on some tropical bonsai. I'll start today's work on my Ficus cutting of a cutting. This is a cutting of a cutting off my very first bonsai, my Ficus microcarpa. The last time I worked on this tree was in September before our club's fall show. And at the back of the tree here, I had 2 branches growing from one spot, and I chose to keep this back branch here. And I pruned off the larger one, and it's grown in again. So my pruning scar is here. I don't know if you can see that. It's here, and I got a brand new branch, and that's that really vigorous one that grew up towards the front. So if I look at the front of the tree, I don't know. I don't think I really want a branch in that area. Maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe it's this one out front that should be removed. I don't know. Originally I wanted, like, branches coming up and forming a low canopy on this tree. And if I have all these branches coming from one point here, it'll start to get a big bulge there in the trunk, I think. I mean, I do have lots of taper in the trunk. I'm going to sit down and have a look at this tree. I got to think of what I exactly want this tree to look like in the end. Usually when I grow a kind of a broom style bonsai with the upright kind of extensions of the trunk, the major branches coming up and then forming that canopy, I always kind of leave my vertical branches to the last, because the branches that come out that are more horizontal don't grow as quickly as branches that are vertical. And this holds true for most trees. And the problem with this tree is that I have this kind of vertical section in the middle here that's really vigorous. The tree just wants to grow everything from that upright trunk there, the vertical trunk. So little energy goes into these side branches, and they stay kind of small. They don't really develop. You can see how much this one's grown vertically compared to some of these more horizontal branches that just have a few sets of leaves on them. So if I want to put all my vigor into these horizontal branches to grow this kind of broom style canopy, I think I would have to get rid of that whole upright trunk here and then develop all these branches that fan out from the main trunk to form the canopy. And then, you know, towards the end, when those branches are all nicely developed, then I would allow something to grow up kind of towards the middle of the tree, more vertical, developing that last, because any vertical shoots will quickly catch up to these more horizontal ones. So that's a principle that holds true for most bonsai, is that if you're developing a broom style, you've got to keep all those more vertical, vigorous branches pruned back, or they just start to take over in vigor and you get all these side branches become really weak. So I've got to determine, I have two choices. I can grow it as a, you know, a typical tree with the trunk going up and then developing a canopy off that. Or if I want to keep it a very small tree, I can prune off this whole upright section and then, as I say, develop these branches that fan out from the main trunk. So I've got to make my decision which way to go. I've made a decision. I'm going to keep the upright part, and I'm probably going to remove some of these lower branches, and especially this one coming out the front here. If I remove this top upright section, this would probably take over as kind of the main trunk line, or a, you know, one of the vertical branches, and it's kind of coming out towards the viewer. And you know, this trunk is full of scars already. It's not like it's going to be this beautiful, graceful, scar-free trunk. So it'll give it more character. If I remove that, you'll get another wound there that'll heal over. But I think, you know, this upper part has enough upright branches to form a canopy up here. And I'm not really concerned about keeping this tree to a certain height or anything. And I think if I remove this upright section, you know, I would just get this trunk would become very thick down here, and I kind of get this short, squat tree that wouldn't really be very graceful, and that's not really my kind of style. I like everything to be nice and flowing on a tree, you know, beautiful curves and graceful transitions. And so I think I'm going to, you know, start by removing this front branch. All right, here I go. I'm going to make this wound fairly deep. Hopefully it'll look okay. So here I go. Like that. I'm just looking at the cut point. I probably could go a little deeper. So I'll try. I'll go in. Just remove a little bit more. Like that. That way it'll heal over a little more flush. I've got to branch out the side here. That, again, isn't very graceful. The trunk comes up and then this branch comes out at 90 degrees. If it was kind of pointing upwards, maybe, you know, more like that part of it, it would look okay. But it comes off the trunk at almost 90 degrees and doesn't flow. So I'm going to remove it. I think this tree needs a bit more trunk anyway. The branches were very low on it. So off it goes. Here I go. Just like that. And I think I can make that pruning point just a little deeper also. Just so it heals over nice and smooth, like that. The next part on this tree that isn't very graceful is this side of the trunk comes up and then it's kind of got a bulge where these branches were. So I'm going to remove those branches also. And possibly that bulge. I'll just remove the branches first. So I'll clip that one off, and then the big one here, I'll prune it off. Timber. That was a long one. And then I've got kind of that bulge here, so I'll try and prune that back. to get it looking a little more flush. So I'll take a big chunk out of there. And most of these wounds on the trunk heal really quickly. You can see there's a root removed from the back here, and it's almost completely healed over in just a couple of years. So, all right, here comes that chunk off the side, like that. I'm leaving a bit of living tissue there. It's still a little bulgy, but I think that'll smooth out with time. I've always left this root on the side here, and I think the root underneath kind of blends the trunk in with the root base better. I think that aerial root, it's not bad. It's not the worst looking root in the world, but I think the tree would look better without it. So I'm going to remove it today. All right, here I go. I'm going to come in from the top here and remove it like that. And then I've got to remove it from the soil line. I don't think I can pull it out. Well, maybe I can. A lot of root attached to it. But there, I've got it off. Now I'll just fix up that soil surface. A lot of roots kind of coming out over the edge of the pot. We'll just trim some of those back. One over here. This tree's growing in a 3D printed pot. One of the first ones I ever made. It's doing quite well on it. Now I've just got to clean up my cut point there. It's a little awkward looking. Like that. Yeah, that's better. So the tree's looking quite different now. I've always left this left-hand low branch on to kind of be kind of a secondary trunk, and I'm going to have a look at it. I may remove it today. I'm going to see if the tree would look more flowing and more beautiful without that. So I'll come around the front and kind of cover it up with my hand and see if it looks better with it or without it. All right, I'll cover it up with my hand. So without it, it looks like a fairly normal kind of ficus trunk. With it, it kind of gives it a bit of uniqueness. I think I better keep it because it looks kind of nice. It sort of defines the tree. Otherwise, if I removed it, it would just look like a normal, boring, kind of upright ficus. So I think I'll keep that and continue to develop that side branch. I think it's time to prune up the main canopy now. I've got my leader comes up and then it starts subdividing here. And I've got a lot of branches coming from the one point. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want 4 or I'll get a big bulge there eventually. So I've got to decide what I want to keep. And if this is the front of my tree, which at the present moment it is, I've got this branch coming forward is directly in front of the one behind it. And I think it comes forward a little too much, especially if I'm going to develop this into a bit of a taller tree. So I'm going to remove that section out front and develop the one behind. So here I go, like that. Major changes for this tree today. Okay, so I'm down to 3 branches in that area now. I've got my upright 1, 2 here. So I want to get rid of one more. And I think I'll get, these are dead branches in here. So I'm going to get rid of those just so I can kind of see what's going on here. like that. There's a little dead branch out the front here. I think it just got shaded out. Another one there. So that cleans up the structure. The branch that grows directly out the back, you can't really see it, so I'm going to prune that one off. Like that. So now I'm subdividing into two here, and then when I go up higher, I've got two coming off here, and I don't know if I want that one. I don't think I do. It doesn't flow very nicely. So that one's gone. So that's kind of got this upper structure sorted out. This back branch, it comes up and divides from 1 into 3 here. So I want to keep 2 of those, and I'll have to decide which ones. I think I'll have to get rid of the one that grows vertical here. So this one, like that. And then I'll want to prune this one back to there. I'll want to prune this one back to here. And this one back to here. This one I'll go to right here. Oh, right here. And this one will be back to here. I'll take that leaf off. I'm wondering, I think I've got to take this one off shorter here. I've got a division here, I can snip it right back to there. Okay, now I'll prune up this branch on the left-hand side. All right, let's get this one pruned up. I'll take that dead piece off there. And there's a dead stump here from the last time I pruned it. Take that off. I'm going to remove, there's a center part here. It kind of, if you see, it kind of divides here. And I want to remove that center one, which is perfectly straight. So I'll take it out like that. And then I'll shorten this one back to here. There's a vertical section here I'll take off. And I'll take the tip off here. Now this one that comes out front, do I want to keep that? I have to decide. I've got this branch, it divides here into 2 branches. I've got a skinny one out the front and one here, and I've got to decide, do I want to keep both of them or just keep the one? I'll come up front and have a look. I think I do want to keep it because it's kind of getting long without any sub-branching. So eventually I'll probably, let them gain a bit of vigor, prune them back shorter, and get my branching starting, about here on this branch. So I'm just going to reduce this one back a bit. It's a little long to there. And I think that's got the tree pruned up. Quite a change for this tree. At the moment, this wound at the front looks quite horrific, but that will eventually heal over and possibly even get a nice kind of feature on the front of the tree. Who knows, in future I'll probably get aerial roots coming off the trunk and it'll completely change the entire look of the trunk. So I'm not too concerned about these large wounds because on a ficus they generally heal fairly quickly, if you let the tree grow. So I think that's got the tree pruned back. I think it's quite a change today, but I think it's all going to be better for the future of this tree. And I hope, I don't make this tree look too generic looking. I don't want it to look like every other ficus out there. I want it to kind of have some unique style, and I think this branch is an important part of that. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is my Norfolk Island Pine forest. It's growing really well now after the last work I did on the tree, and I can do a bit of pruning. The Norfolk Island Pine is commonly called the triangle tree because in nature they grow in a triangular form. So kind of like a conical form. So you can see it's growing really vigorously up top. So I've got to prune the top back and let the bottom grow out to get that triangular silhouette to the trees. All right, so here I go. I want to prune, this top growth back really tightly. So I'm going to come in right here. Snip the branch there. And you can see how much I took off. Always leaving some nice healthy green foliage on the branch. And I'll do the same with the one out this side. I'll prune it back nice and tight like that. And that's helping me get my triangular form. I'll take the apex back a bit here. And there's a bit of fluffiness growing out here. I'm going to leave that. It's not really developed enough yet, so I'll leave that. The rest of the tree looks pretty good. So I'll do the one in the back now. Again, pruning it back to this triangular form. I've read a lot on the internet that says you can't grow these as bonsai and you can't prune them, and I haven't found that. So far, mine have been doing quite well. So there, that's got that second apex pruned up to a triangular form. I've got one here. Just going to prune that back. I think I can take this one back. This one should be back a bit further. Take some of there's a bit of browning on the tip of this one. I'll just take that off. This one too. And there's a little brown branch in here that's fallen down. Take that out. There's a branch kind of growing towards the center here that I should prune back. And I think that's got it all pruned up. So there's a look at the forest from kind of ground level. I'll spin it around so you can have a look at it. So here's around to the right-hand side. We're going around to the back of the planting. And around to the left-hand side. And you can see the trees are towards the back of the planting. That gives a nice open landscape in the front and gives a lot of depth to the composition. These rocks are in here just to keep the trees growing straight so they're not on angles. And back to the front. The moss in this planting is grown all by itself. And I've got some liverwort growing in here. And I never ever used to get liverwort growing in any trees until the last 2 years. And it seems to be growing in all my bonsai containers. So I'm going to take it out. I know some people like liverwort, but it makes it hard to water. It forms this leafy part across the surface of the soil, and the water just runs off it, and it's not good for growing as a ground cover on your bonsai. So I'll get my tool and I'll kind of get down to the base of it and remove it. It's a very interesting plant, but there's a view of it there. Really interesting, but just not for bonsai. Unless you're growing an alien landscape or something, then it would look good. But again, it is hard to water your trees. Okay, so that moss will kind of continue to grow across the surface here. And I think I've got this all cleaned up and it's ready to grow again. I really like these Norfolk Island pines. They give you a coniferous look to a forest or a tree, and yet they're you know, tropical. You can grow them indoors. So I really like this little forest. It's just a pleasure to look at it. You know, and hopefully it'll just keep getting better in the future. So we'll keep working away at it, trying to solve the mysteries of the Norfolk Island Pine as bonsai. Not only did I take photographs of the truck today, but I also got the summer wheels and tires on the Nissan Micra, and I'll show you what they look like. So there goes the Micra with the new summer wheels on it. It looks really good. Stickers on the tire. Wow, is that ever sporty? So here's the Nissan Micra now with the summer wheels and tires on. So the stock car came with 15-inch steel wheels, but 16-inch wheels were an option on this, on the more deluxe versions of this car. So for the summer wheels, I got 16-inch alloys, and the reason I got them was the steel wheels. They wanted $72 a piece for the steel wheels, and I thought that's way too much money. So an alloy wheel came in at $112 a piece. So that was, it's a little bit more, but I just couldn't pay that much money for steel wheels. So that's what it looks like. It's looking pretty good. Really like it. There's the back. You can see the drum brake on the back needs a bit of a paint. Have to do that. But yeah, it looks really good on the car. Makes it look a little more sporty. And Nissan doesn't offer this car in the United States. You can get it all over the world and in Canada, but not in the United States. And it's been discontinued for this year. So it's a really fuel efficient car, and it's really sporty to drive. I just love, you know, blasting down the highway and the 401 on this thing. It's just absolutely fantastic. I really like this car. It's a 5-speed manual, and you know, light and nimble, and just a real fun car to drive. It's like I don't know, having a little sports car. So it should be even better with these wheels and tires on it now. So that's the Nissan Micra for 2020. Today's video had quite a mix of automotive content, but I did get some bonsai in too. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me today in the Bonsai Zone.